Charlie's luck had always been as reliable as a broken clock, which is to say it was right twice a day and perpetually wrong the rest of the time. He found himself sprinting down the main street of Sprocketville, a town known for its eccentricities, particularly its obsession with potatoes. Today, it was hosting the world's largest potato contest, which had always struck him as a bizarre competition for something so mundane. In retrospect, he would come to think of that day as the moment everything went hilariously wrong. As Charlie dashed past the display of comically oversized spuds, he couldn't help but think that a virus spreading through the town wasn't the worst thing happening. After all, who cared about a little infection when there were tubers the size of small children? He stumbled upon a couple of locals, their skin a sickly hue, whispering frantically to one another. Their faces were a blend of confusion and mania, and instead of fear, Charlie felt a strange urge to eavesdrop. "Did you hear about the potatoes?" one of them murmured, and Charlie's ears perked up. Was this some kind of local lore? He stepped closer, hoping to catch the punchline of their weird joke. "Potatoes are the key," the other replied with a wild gleam in his eyes. "They're watching us." Charlie choked back a laugh. "Great, now even the potatoes are in on it." But before he could turn this into material for his next novel, the first man lunged at him with a flailing arm, as if the very essence of the potato had possessed him. "Run!" Charlie yelled to no one in particular, as he raced down the street, his heart pounding faster than a caffeinated jackrabbit. He zigzagged past bewildered festival-goers, who were too busy posing for selfies with oversized potatoes to notice the madness unfolding. "Is this part of the show?" someone shouted, and Charlie couldn't help but laugh. This would make for an excellent story, if he survived. The virus, he learned later, was named tuberositis. The townsfolk had initially shrugged it off, believing it to be a hoax or a clever marketing ploy by local farmers to boost potato sales. Charlie wasn't so sure as he darted into an alleyway, panting heavily. Just when he thought he'd lost them, he heard it, a low, eerie whisper that cut through the din of the festival. "Humanity is a fragile thing, okay, that's new," he muttered. The whispers were hauntingly compelling, a strange mix of revelation and absurdity that made his skin crawl and tingle with excitement. Were they part of the infection? Were they truly saying something, or was this just the result of his overactive imagination? He felt like he was on the brink of a breakthrough, a story that would finally garner him some recognition. He leaned against a wall, trying to catch his breath. "Just a few minutes of peace, and then I can figure this out," he said to himself. He pulled out his notebook, scribbling furiously as another whisper drifted through the alley. "Your fear is our delight." Charlie shivered. "Is that a threat or a compliment?" he chuckled nervously. His mind was racing faster than his heart, and the whispers swirled around him, playing tricks on his sanity. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, Luna, a local survivalist known for her peculiar ways of preparing for disasters that never seemed to happen. She was dressed in a mismatched outfit made of camo and tie-dye, holding a crossbow like it was a fancy handbag. "Charlie, you're in danger," she declared, her eyes wide with an intensity that made him question his reality. "I noticed," he replied, glancing over his shoulder. "But how did you know?" "Everyone knows you have the worst luck. I figured you'd be the first one to get infected." "Gee, thanks for the vote of confidence," he shot back, trying to keep the mood light despite the chaos. "Listen, we need to get out of here before the infected." "Before the what?" Charlie interrupted, almost incredulously. "The infected," she repeated, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "They're losing their humanity, and the whispers, they're revealing the worst parts of us." "Sounds like a bad horror movie plot," he replied, attempting to sound brave despite the rising tension. "That's the point." Luna exclaimed, rolling her eyes. But this isn't a movie. If we don't move, we'll be next. Come on. Charlie followed her, unsure of what exactly they were running from. They maneuvered through the alleyways, the whispers growing louder and more insistent. Your failures echo in the void. Nice pep talk, Charlie grumbled, but he was intrigued. They found themselves in the heart of Sprocketville, where chaos had erupted. People were screaming, and some of the infected were flailing their arms, trying to express their newfound insanity. Charlie couldn't help but notice how absurdly they were behaving, like characters from a badly written sitcom. Quick. We need to blend in, Luna said, yanking him behind a potato stand. Just act normal. Right. Because that's my specialty, he replied, suppressing a laugh as he watched an infected woman attempt to balance a giant potato on her head while arguing with a lamppost. Hey, it's working, Luna said, her eyes sparkling with mischief. They think we're one of them. Just then, a nearby infected let out a wild screech. Potatoes will rule us all. That's not going to be a meme anytime soon, Charlie muttered. As they hid behind the stand, Charlie started taking notes. This was the kind of material he'd been waiting for, absurdity and chaos intertwined with a deeper narrative. He just needed to figure out how to make it all work. But as they crouched there, he heard the whispers again, this time clearer. We are the shadows of your worst selves. Did you hear that? He asked Luna, who nodded, her face pale. Yeah, and I don't like it one bit. Maybe we should run, she shouted, dragging him behind her. As they dodged another wave of the infected, they escaped to a nearby abandoned building, a dilapidated structure that had once served as a community center. Luna kicked the door open, and they stumbled inside, panting. What now? Charlie asked, looking around. Now we regroup and figure out what's happening, she replied, her breath steadying. And maybe create a plan to stop this. What do you mean, stop it? The whispers, the infection, everything? Yes, she exclaimed, and her fervor was infectious. We can't let the whispers win. They're preying on our fears. We need to turn this around. Charlie raised an eyebrow. And how do you propose we do that? By facing them, she said, her eyes glinting with determination. And by rallying people who still have their humanity intact. You mean, gather a ragtag group of survivors? Exactly, she said, a smile breaking through her earlier worry. You know, the classic dysfunctional family of survivors trope. It'll be fun. Fun, he repeated, incredulous. Luna, people are losing their minds out there. That's exactly why we need to act. We can't let this turn into a horror movie cliché. Charlie sighed, a mix of dread and excitement swelling inside him. Okay, let's gather our dysfunctional family. As they formulated their plan, they realized they had to confront the infection head-on. It was a wild idea, one that felt absurd and risky, yet Charlie found himself oddly invigorated. Maybe he could write about this, about the absurdity of fear and humanity's bizarre resilience. With newfound purpose, Charlie and Luna stepped back outside. The chaos of Sprocketville surrounded them, and the whispers echoed louder than ever. You will become what you fear. Let's show them what we're made of, Luna said, determination written all over her face. They started gathering a group of misfits, Dave, a conspiracy theorist who believed the potatoes were sentient, Marlene, the disgraced former mayor who had a penchant for organizing chaotic town events, and Jasper, a wide-eyed optimist who somehow believed they could negotiate with the infected. Each of them had their own quirks, their own fears, and their own reasons for wanting to survive. But together, they formed a bizarre band of warriors against the whispers. Charlie couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of it all. How had his quiet life turned into a surreal quest for survival? As they brainstormed strategies in the safety of their makeshift headquarters, Charlie found himself laughing more than he had in ages. The whispers grew louder, but so did their camaraderie. They began to recognize that facing the absurdity of the situation was the key to turning it around. "Remember," Charlie said, rallying the group. "The whispers are just reflections of our fears. If we confront them, they lose their power." "Right," Luna chimed in. "And we have potatoes." The group erupted into laughter, the tension slowly dissipating. They spent hours crafting plans, battling the whispers with humor and strategy. It became a game. How could they turn the whispers into something they could use to their advantage? With each passing moment, Charlie felt the story taking shape. This wasn't just about survival, it was about facing the fears that made them human. It was about finding strength in the strangest of places, like an abandoned community center with a group of misfits bound together by a surreal crisis. The infected outside were becoming more erratic, their whispers growing louder, but inside, Charlie felt a sense of calmness. They were ready. And as the group moved into action, Charlie couldn't help but feel like they were part of a grand narrative, one where laughter and humanity could shine even in the darkest of times. As Charlie and his ragtag group prepared to face the infected, the atmosphere in the abandoned community center crackled with a mix of anticipation and humor. It felt surreal to be standing alongside such a peculiar ensemble, yet there was a shared understanding that their collective absurdity might be their greatest asset. "Okay, team," Charlie began, trying to rally the troops. "We've got our work cut out for us. The infected are out there whispering all kinds of things about us. We need to counteract that, show them we're not afraid. What do we do?" Jasper asked, wide-eyed and earnest. "Can we really talk to them?" "Why not?" Charlie replied, a smirk creeping across his face. "We could start a dialogue. After all, what's the worst that could happen? They start whispering about our fashion choices?" Luna snorted. "If they do, they'll have a point." The laughter that erupted from the group was cathartic, and Charlie felt a surge of hope. They spent the next few hours brainstorming, each member pitching in their own eccentric ideas. Dave suggested a potato-based distraction. "If they're whispering about potatoes, let's give them potatoes," he insisted, waving his arms dramatically. "Maybe we could lure them with baked potatoes," Marlene chimed in. "They love that kind of thing. What if we set up a potato festival right here?" Luna suggested, her eyes lighting up with enthusiasm. "We can use it to gather everyone together, both the infected and the uninfected. It'll be our way of confronting the whispers head-on." "Perfect," Charlie said, unable to contain his excitement. "It'll be like a weird therapy session. We'll show them that fear doesn't have to control us." As the plan took shape, they divided responsibilities. Luna and Marlene would gather supplies, while Dave and Jasper worked on crafting the perfect potato dishes. Charlie, the self-proclaimed scribe, would document everything, capturing the madness of their mission. Hours passed as they transformed the community center into a makeshift festival hub. Tables were set up, adorned with banners that read, "Welcome to the Sprockettville Potato Festival." It was ridiculous and brilliant, and Charlie couldn't help but laugh at the thought of how they had turned a crisis into a celebration. Once everything was ready, they stepped outside to face the chaos. The sunlight was waning, casting long shadows as the whispers grew louder, an unsettling symphony of human despair. "We're ready," Charlie said, his heart pounding. Remember, the goal is to confront the whispers, not to let them take control. They took a deep breath and ventured into the street, where the infected roamed, their eyes glazed over, muttering to one another. Charlie's stomach churned, but he pressed forward, flanked by his unlikely companions. "Hey, everyone," he shouted, surprising even himself with the volume. "Welcome to the first ever Sprocketville Potato Festival." The infected paused, their whispers quieting momentarily as they turned to face the strange gathering. A few blinked, clearly confused, and Charlie seized the moment. "We have baked potatoes. We have mashed potatoes. And guess what? We have potato salad." Marlene stepped up, her voice booming. "Come on over. This is a safe space to celebrate our love for potatoes, infected or not." To Charlie's astonishment, some of the infected began to shuffle toward them, drawn by the prospect of food and the absurdity of the situation. "See?" Luna whispered to Charlie, her face lit with determination. "They're curious. They want to know what's happening." As the first few infected approached, they seemed less aggressive and more bewildered. One man, wearing a tattered potato costume that had likely once been a Halloween joke, blinked at Charlie. "Potatoes?" he asked, his voice rough but tinged with curiosity. "Potatoes." Charlie echoed enthusiastically, gesturing to the tables. "It's all about potatoes today. Come join us." The man hesitated, then cautiously approached the table laden with potato dishes. Charlie felt a surge of adrenaline as he realized they might just have a chance. More infected trickled in, some nodding along to the ridiculousness of it all, their whispers fading into laughter and disbelief. They were joining in on the festivities, if only momentarily. Charlie watched as Luna served baked potatoes with a flourish, while Dave regaled the crowd with outrageous tales about the secret life of potatoes. Laughter erupted, mingling with the soft whispers of the infected, and Charlie couldn't help but feel that something remarkable was happening. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a particularly agitated group gathering at the far end of the street. Their whispers grew louder, more frantic, and Charlie felt a chill run down his spine. "They're not convinced," he said, his voice low. "They're the ones who are really lost," Luna replied, squaring her shoulders. "We need to reach them." Charlie nodded, adrenaline coursing through him as he approached the crowd. "Hey," he called out, trying to project confidence. "We're all here to celebrate. Join us, and we'll make it a party." The group stopped, their whispers becoming a chaotic blend of fear and anger. "You don't understand," one of them shouted, his voice trembling. "We're beyond saving. The whispers, they've taken over." "No," Charlie replied, desperation seeping into his voice. "The whispers only have power if you let them. We can face them together." As he spoke, he recalled the words of the whispers that had plagued him since the outbreak began. "Your fears are our delight." "Exactly," he continued, his heart racing. "What if we take those fears and turn them into something else? What if we laugh in the face of the whispers?" A few people in the crowd began to murmur, considering his words. "Can we really do that?" another infected asked, a flicker of hope in his voice. "Absolutely," Charlie exclaimed. "Join us. Let's confront our fears with potatoes." With a hesitant step forward, one man reached out for a potato from the table. The crowd seemed to hesitate, but the absurdity of the moment was infectious. Soon, others began to step forward, a cautious but growing curiosity in their eyes. Luna, seizing the opportunity, began to chant, "Potato power! Potato power! The laughter began again, this time contagious, and soon the entire gathering erupted into shouts of "potato power." For the first time since the chaos began, Charlie felt a surge of hope. The whispers had not disappeared, but they were being drowned out by laughter. The infected were rediscovering their humanity, even if just for a moment. As the crowd began to celebrate, Charlie felt the weight of his fears lifting. Maybe they wouldn't cure everyone, but they had sparked a change. They were reclaiming their narrative, rewriting the horror into something absurdly beautiful. "Look!" Marlene called out, pointing toward a nearby building where a few infected had begun to dance. "This is incredible." It was a sight to behold. People who had once been lost in their madness were now laughing, dancing, and celebrating, embracing their humanity through the ridiculousness of it all. Charlie realized that this was their true weapon against the infection, laughter and connection. As the sun set over Sprockettville, casting a golden glow on the festival, Charlie felt a sense of completion. They had turned a dire situation into something unique, a festival that would be talked about for years to come, a testament to resilience in the face of absurdity. "Charlie," Luna called, waving him over. "Look at this." He rushed over to see a group of infected forming a conga line, dancing their way through the crowd, potatoes in hand. The laughter rang out like music, and for the first time, Charlie felt a glimmer of hope for a brighter future. "Let's take a picture," he suggested, pulling out his phone. "This moment needs to be remembered." As they posed together, Charlie realized that they were all part of something greater, an unexpected family formed through chaos and laughter. The whispers had not defeated them, they had transformed them. "Potato power," they shouted together, their voices echoing into the night, and in that moment, Charlie knew he had found the story he had always wanted to tell. It was not just about survival, it was about finding light in the darkness, about connecting with others in the most unexpected ways. As the festival continued into the night, Charlie felt a sense of peace wash over him. They had faced the infection and the whispers together, turning fear into laughter, and in doing so, they had reclaimed their humanity. He began to write, capturing the moments, the laughter, and the resilience that had emerged from the chaos. And as he penned the last words of his story, he knew that Sprockettville would never be the same again. They had not just survived the whispers, they had embraced them, turning the horrors of the unknown into a celebration of life. In the heart of absurdity, they had found joy, and that was a story worth telling.